From the CBS 4 Sports Studio in Northwest Gainesville, here's Gainesville Game Day. Sponsored by G. Bradley Insurance Agency, the right team for all of your insurance needs. Now, here's Gainesville Sun columnist Pat Dooley and CBS 4's own Sarah Cardona.
Welcome to another edition of Gainesville Game Day. I'm Sarah Cardona alongside Pat Dooley from the Gainesville Sun. And Pat, it seems like every week there's a shocking loss. This week it was definitely Oklahoma. I don't think any of us saw that coming. And I thought they were the fourth best team in the country up to that point. Now I'm quickly changing my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could have made an argument for being one of the one or two best teams in the country because they've been blowing out people. You know, it just felt like there were so many big spreads that something was going to happen somewhere. We just didn't know where. So it was a wild, crazy weekend in college football, like most of them are. Right now, we're going to tell you what happened around the Southeast.
And now it's Around the Southeast, sponsored by Skyfrog Tree Service.
All right, we start off with what was the big game, of course, of the weekend, the LSU-Auburn game, where you had two top 10 teams playing. I don't want to say it didn't live up to the hype because it ended up being a three-point game, but it was kind of a boring game to watch. Not a whole lot of offense. Neither team could get it going. What stood out to me more than anything is how many holding calls were missed. I mean, there must have been a holding call on every single play, and I know LSU fans will say, no, it's okay, and Auburn fans are saying, no, it's not. But even the players complain. Do the players get fined when they complain about the referees after a game? Because they did that.
Yeah, that's all I saw over my Twitter feed was everyone complaining about the missed calls. And you're right, it wasn't a super exciting game because we didn't get a bunch of touchdowns like we usually do from LSU. And I want to give credit to Auburn's defense for holding the Tigers to just 23 points. Yep. I mean, they have a fantastic defensive line. They definitely controlled the line of scrimmage. And I definitely think those holding penalties, it hurt them in the end because that was a game they could have easily won.
Yeah, there's no question. If they could have, gotten a couple, they would have stopped drives. But you know how it goes in the SEC. Whistles swallowed. There will not be any calls on a big game.
And now we'll go on to Missouri, who lost again. This is their second SEC loss. This time they lost to a team that has a wide receiver as their quarterback. Terrible loss for them. Their defense just didn't show up. I mean, they got beat 29-7.
Yeah, they never felt like they were in that game. It was kind of weird to watch, but how many teams in the history of college football have lost to Wyoming, Vandy, and Kentucky in the same year? I'm not asking that question. I'm saying I'm guessing nobody has. And Wyoming just can't play on the road. They're awful on the road. They're at home. They're a pretty good team, of course. That's where Florida has them. But I don't know. And the funny thing about this team is they can still run the table, win every game, beat Georgia, beat Florida, and they go to Atlanta. And I don't think I want to go to Atlanta if they're in Atlanta because they're not a very good team. Another team that's not very good. Remember back, a few weeks ago, and there was a coach getting interviewed on the sideline. He was all sweaty, and he was telling how great a day it was for Gamecock football. Things haven't gone well since then for Coach Will Muschamp, our old pal. They've given up 38 and 41 in their last two games and lost them both. Losing to Florida, certainly no shame in that, even at home. Losing like they did to Tennessee. And I give Tennessee credit. They haven't quit. They keep coming back. But losing like that, I don't know what South Carolina. They're not going to a bowl game. I got news for you. With what they've got left, there's no way they're getting to 6 wins.
Yeah, and when you look at the Vols team, it's not like they have a ton of explosive offensive players. They have one really good offense.
Jennings is really good.
Really good. So how are you not going to cover him the entire game? Will Muschamp said we didn't cover him, and he's going to go off if you don't cover the only explosive player they have on offense.
Now, see, young lady, you weren't around here during the Muschamp era. All the Gator fans are sitting there going, no, we know that's what's going to happen. You know he's going to run the ball. He's going to try to play great defense, but all of a sudden guys will be uncovered. They know exactly what's going on. Okay, we've gone around the Southeast. Now it's time to look at our starting lineup.
Let's get started with the starting lineup.
All right, we start out by talking about Florida getting healthier, and certainly this is still to be determined in my mind because Jonathan Grenard, of course, who's had an all-SEC, maybe all-American type year, has come out and said, I'm not 100%, I'm 85%, which means he's 75%. And I wonder where Zuniga is, Kadarius Toney. But at least they got a shot with these guys. They can get them in the game. I don't think they need to play either Grenard or Zuniga 60 plays. I think if they can, get them out there for 25 to 30 plays, that'll be fine. But at least they're going to this game with what you would think would be all their bullets in the gun, because right now, as we know, they've had to play a lot of football game without a bunch of all SEC guys.
Definitely. It's going to be huge to have them back. And you heard Dan Mullen say that Kadarius Toney looked really good. Van Jefferson said that he's back. And Jonathan Grenard just said the other day, he said nothing's going to keep him off that field, that he's playing. So I think these guys, even if they still aren't 100%, I feel like they're still going to battle. And when you have all these guys coming back on defense, I think they can be one of the best defenses when they're healthy.
Yeah, well, we saw that against Auburn. That was an elite defense, but that was when everybody was healthy, and Grenard went out late in that game.
And Pat, in Vegas, Florida is currently a 6.5-point underdog, despite their only loss being to the best team in the country. Let's not forget, Georgia lost to South Carolina, who,
at home.
Yeah, at home, who has looked terrible. So I don't really understand how they are this big of an underdog.
I predicted it last week. I was talking to some people on the radio, and I said, look, here's what we saw all week was Florida got a lot of love during the open week. People were they're going to get their guys back. But when Vegas set the line, the money went on Georgia, because Georgia has been in all these big games. Georgia right now is a more high-profile team than Florida, even though Florida's done great things. So the money line was actually at 3.5 in the summer. Opened at 4.5, all the way up to 6.5. So obviously a lot of money is coming in on Georgia. Does that mean anything? Absolutely nothing.
It doesn't matter.
It's just something to talk about. It's like the polls. I'm an AP voter, so I take umbrage when people say the polls are ridiculous. Just enjoy them. Have fun with them. Have fun with the spreads. What is going to continue to happen is that Florida and Georgia will continue to play in Jacksonville. No big surprise there. In about 3 years, Sarah, you're going to see this story coming down the pike. Alumni from one school or the other are saying, we need to move the game out of Jacksonville. And then they'll renegotiate, and they'll have a deal where every player receives a gold bar in his room when they show up from the city of Jacksonville, and it'll all be settled, and they'll continue. It's always going to be in Jacksonville, at least while I'm alive.
Yeah, and I heard a couple of the players say they would kind of like it to be one game in Georgia, one game in Florida, just so they can kind of experience both of those environments. But I think keep the tradition going. I've never been to the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville, so today will be my first time, and I'm really excited. It's a
nice deal, and I used to be a proponent of moving because I love Athens. Athens is a great town. It's probably the best town in the SEC, other than Gainesville, of course. Okay, so that was our starting lineup. We'll take a break. And when we come back, Sarah is going to tell you what's trending on social here on Gainesville Game Day on CBS 4.